In case of a medical emergency, an automated external defibrillator, an AED, is located on the counter behind staff, located to your west or on the left side of this room. And in case of an emergency evacuation, emergency exits are through the double doors located at the back of the room, and the doors to the patio can also be used as needed. Thank you again for joining us. I now call the October 13th, 2025 work session of the Eugene City Council to order. And I will turn it right over to the Assistant City Manager to introduce our first topic, which is a work session, the Police Commission's annual report and work plan.
Thank you, Mayor. This is an opportunity for Council to meet with the Commission leadership as well as staff supporting it and be able to review the fiscal year 2025 annual report and the FY26 and 27 biennial work plan. We have Chair Amelia Folks with us, Sergeant Jordan, and Chief Skinner. And with that, I'm going to throw it over to Chief Skinner.
Thank you, Matt. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Chief Chris Skinner for the record. It is going to be our pleasure to offer you this 2025 annual report and the upcoming work plan for 26-27. With us, we have, as Matt had said, we have our newest chair, Amelia Folks. This is her first time doing this, and so she's been amazing so far and is doing a really nice job in the short time that she's been our chair, and we're looking forward to the great work ahead. Also, Sergeant Allison Jordan, who is the policy sergeant that is in the chief's office. Allison is responsible for helping us craft policy, taking feedback from the Police Commission on how we make adjustments to policy. As you know, your police commission is a policy advisory board. They make recommendations to good police policy. We can encourage them to continue to find ways to move us forward through police policy. And I think you'll see in the FY 26-27 work plan that we've got some really good topics keyed up. As always, though, these topics are not the only thing that they will talk about. If we have some emerging issues, and I think we have a few that are on top of mind for us, that we can actually move those onto the work plan. And so don't be discouraged if you don't see some of your favorite topics on the work plan. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Amelia, and she's going to go through our accomplishments in 2025 and the upcoming work plan.
Can you hear me okay? Wonderful. Good evening, City Council members, Madam Mayor. City Manager, Assistant City Manager. Thank you, sir. City Attorney, thank you all for having me this evening. So going over a review of our 2025 annual report and then going into our 2026-2027 work plan. So as Chief had mentioned, the Police Commission, we are a citizen body and we review policy and provide thoughts, insights from a citizen's point of view. We offer those to EPD to review and potentially make changes or just suggestions to their policy. So we have had a lot of changes in the last few months. So my name is Amelia Folks, and I am a recent chair. This is all new to me, so I appreciate your patience as I work through this evening. I have a wonderful support system here with the Chief and Sergeant Jordan here by my side. So we have also Vice Chair John Bradley is not here with us this evening, but we have a new Vice Chair. We also have two new not recruits, but two new individuals joining us on the commission, Commissioner Donovan and Commissioner Bertrand. We also have Commissioner Wilgus, and Vice Chair Bradley is also relatively new. So we've had quite a few new folks join us this year, which has been exciting. Let's see here. Okay, so jumping into the 2025 work plan here. So I picked a couple of things. So first of all, as of June 30th, there were 13 areas of focus that had been deemed complete. 3 were or are in progress, with one emerging topic. That's the drones as first responders, which is still in progress based on legislation and that type of thing, legal goodness. So some of the items I wanted to share with you that I was able to be a part of. So one of the policies 370, communications with persons with disabilities, was a really rich discussion. We had that October December of 2024 and then January of 2025. We reviewed the policy, and we included community members Larry Craig and Linda Phelps, who are members of Mobility International USA, subject matter experts on persons with disabilities language. And we had a really lovely conversation. They brought in their information and edits to that policy, and we were able to ask them questions regarding language, and we updated that policy or provided recommendations to EPD on policies to include definitions of varying cognitive disabilities that may not be seen, that can help officers and EPD alike be able to acknowledge some of those disabilities that may not be seen. We also discussed, and this one was brought up especially with their, the Bigfoot beverage strike that was going on. We also talked about strike and labor disputes, policy 313. We reviewed that policy, discussed some of that language, and made a couple of recommendations, and that policy was also updated. Next slide, please. Thank you, Sergeant. All right. All right, there was also a procedure, 12.18. So this one, I'm looking to see if it's actually on the work plan. This is one of those pieces that came up, which was pretty awesome. So in December of 2023, discussion was started. In May of 24 and June of 2024, the naloxone or Narcan procedure was brought up, and the commission offered recommendations from former Chair Hawkins and the commission as a whole to have Narcan in the bags of each EPD officer. And so at this time, I do believe that naloxone, also known as Narcan, is now 2 doses, I believe, are in each officer's bag while they are on duty, which is pretty great. One of the other highlights I wanted to talk about was drones as first responders, policy 908 and 908A. This one is a constant as it is an emerging technology. People are still learning about it. We're still learning about it. There is an officer, I believe Sergeant, Kyle Williams, who is a subject matter expert on it, and he was able to come and give us a demonstration at the commission. Also explain a little bit about how that technology started and how it's used in our community. This one will be an ongoing as that technology piece is continuously updated and laws around that are updated and the like. All right, so there were some other things I wanted to talk about. Okay, so May of 2025, we had our work retreat, which was pretty excellent, and that's when we started talking about our 2026-2027 work plan. We had a couple citizens show up for public comment at that time, or no, I'm sorry, there was no public comment at that work session, I apologize. Those individuals had shown up for public comment previously at our commission meetings, and they helped to bring about one of our policies. I'm going to jump ahead here real quick. One of our 2026-2027 items, which I'm jumping ahead. I'm going to just step back a minute and go back to our 24-25 work plan. I'm getting so excited. Thank you, Sergeant. Thank you all. You're so lovely. I'm so glad I live here. This one. This one still? This one. Thank you. So this is the 24-25 work plan. This is parking lot items that we reviewed. Let's see here. So 702, number 19, we're actually still working on that one. 702 and 703, those are on our current work plan. Let's see here. So let's go to next slide, please. And next slide again. We'll get into the stats. We love stats. Okay, so this is kind of an overview over the last 2 years. So the majority of the work plan items were completed. Again, there's 13 that were completed in total, 3 in progress and 1 emerging. The topics and policies, so we have virtual policing, mutual aid, the discipline matrix, downtown safety and presence, equity, inclusion, and accessibility, so recruitment and retention, oh, pardon me, yes, next slide, thank you. Recruitment and retention, special teams, ad hoc, communications with persons with disabilities, again, that was one that we as the commission reviewed. That was lovely. I was part of that one. Limited English proficiency, we also looked at that, provided minor revisions, and that one was approved by the commission. Crisis response. So mental health and crisis response, minor policy revisions, welfare checks. Next, I'm going to just say Narcan. The next, I cannot say it. No, oh yes, sorry. The Narcan procedure and adding those doses to officers' bags. And then again, storage of prisoner property, further review pending. So 702 and 703, we are still currently, or is on our current year work plan. Next slide, thank you. So safety cameras, we recommended edits. Eye-level signage required, facial recognition prohibited, 90-day retention limit for data. Emerging technology, that one will be, I believe, the initial review was completed, edits in draft stage. So with the emerging technology, we are in a technological sound world these days, and so I think that one will be an ongoing as needed with the commission's review as things come up in legislation and laws as a whole. And then drones as first responders, policy 908, again, we got an update, or excuse me, we had some really great information presented by Sergeant Kyle Williams. He is a subject matter expert on drones and first responders, and also, fun fact, I believe he's one of the leading individuals in the country that is working on drone technology with first responders, specific to first responders, which is pretty cool for our community. Thank you. Governance and oversight. So bylaws and missions, we updated to align with COE ordinances. What does COE mean? Does anybody know? City of Eugene. I learned something new today. Okay. Independent police auditor briefing on personal complaints. And we actually will be meeting our new police auditor here in the next month or two based on time allowed. And then policy process and accreditation, commission received an overview of what that is and how that plays out. Thank you so much. So we also had the mental health subcommittee, LEMHW, which, to be perfectly honest, I cannot remember that acronym to save my life. Do you know? Law Enforcement, Mental Health, and Wellness. So this one was pretty great. I got to be a part of this one. So ultimately, it was started to really develop policies that promote officer mental health, emotional, physical well-being, to make sure that officers are supported in the traumatic work that they do. We had 7 public meetings chaired by former Chair Jensina Hawkins and then Jack Rady. There were wellness programs across 6 police departments that were reviewed and studied to see what types of programs were in other states and other cities. There's a new policy, 1021, the Law Enforcement Mental Health and Wellness, which includes PSRT, so that is the Public Service Response Team. I'm making stuff up. Peer support, thank you. EAP, which is the Employee Assistance Program, a chaplain, support dog, fitness, education. And in discussion of this, EPD had been working on these types of things now, and they actually have recently opened up the mental health and wellness room, and they also have a QMHP on site for officers. So between the subcommittee and EPD as a whole, they have created a really rich support system for their officers and staff as a whole. All right, noteworthy presentations and guests. So Sergeant Barong, who has since retired and gone on to do amazing things in life, presented how the EPD policies are developed and accredited through the Northwest Accreditation Alliance. The commission reviewed the 2023 Internal Affairs and Independent Auditor, Police Auditor reports. Madam Mayor joined us for our work retreat, which was lovely to have. And we had our, again, Sergeant Kyle Williams. Community outreach, our former chair, Jensina Hawkins, attended numerous activities within the community, National Night Out, Asian Celebration, Pride in the Park, along with, Asian Celebration, we also had Commissioner Brady join that one. The MLK March and Celebration, former Chair Hawkins, and then former Commissioner Silky Booker and former Chair Hawkins at the Black Cultural Initiative. One of my favorite exciting things, next slide please, the educational opportunities. This is probably one of my favorite things to talk about. So former Chair Hawkins was a wonderful mentor to me and kind of took me into, showed me the different types of things that the city had to offer. We completed together the Bystander Upstander workshop. If anybody's ever interested, it's a wonderful, especially in the time that we live in with our current government. It's a wonderful workshop on how to safely intervene in biased incidents. We also completed the Citizens Police Academy. This I can't recommend enough. Not knowing a lot about the police commission, or excuse me, the Eugene Police Department as a whole, and really a lot of my knowledge being based around what I see on TV or what you hear about in the news, and it wasn't really specific to Eugene. And so the Citizens Police Academy was a wonderful opportunity to get to know the different departments that Eugene Police Department offers, the folks that work there. They also allow you to drive police cars, which is very fun if you get a chance to do that. They also provided scenarios, so we got to actually act as officers and how do we respond in crisis intervention situations. We also got to go to the range, shooting range, and learn about why they use certain equipment that they do. Again, it was a wonderful opportunity. If you get a chance, I highly recommend anybody to check that out. And then, so that specific, the specific police academy covered de-escalation training, de-escalation, crisis intervention, tactical exercises. The driving piece. So we did get to drive police cars with lights, and just how to I'm going to just use layman's terms here. Go real fast and stop real fast, especially in Oregon. That is, I think, a really amazing skill set to have because of our inclement weather. And so, again, we also got a jail tour. So it was really an amazing opportunity to learn about our current police department, what they do, and how they do it. Thank you. Okay. So looking ahead at our 2026-2027 biannual work plan, Again, Madam Mayor joined us for that meeting, which was lovely to have her. We had public comment earlier in the year, and they brought up, let's see here, number 3, the sexual assault procedure 3.4 and stalking incidents 3.6, and had a lot of really great feedback for us. So we were able to bring that up and made that a priority on our work plan for the 2026-2027 year. Number 1, our immigration law. That was also in response to our current ICE activity here in Eugene and with our current political climate. That one actually we have reviewed and completed. So number 1 has been done at this time. Number 2, police stops. That one is still in discussion. Let's see here. I did want to highlight in our parking lot items, number 11 and number 12, we are actively and currently, we've started talking about those, but those are going to still be in review. So we have tabled those for the moment. We have, based on, again, current climate and what's going on with the community and the community's voice, we have reviewed number 20, the ALPR license plate reader policy 1204. We have recently at our last meeting adopted a basis of policy for that, and then understanding that with changes that come along, any legal changes that come about, any legislature changes that our city council, we will be updating that as that comes along. So we also understand that Eugene is a very committed, very passionate community. And so anything that does come about, we want to be able to bring that up and put it on our work plan as needed. So we really, truly appreciate City Council, we also have two wonderful liaisons, if you may know, Councilor Ye and Councilor Groves, that join us every month. Madam Mayor, City Manager, Chief of Police, we appreciate all the support that we get. And personally, I just want to applaud everybody and thank you so much for all the support. Like I said, we've had a lot of transition in the last few months, and not really knowing what I'm doing, I've been very supported. And so thanking this great community for being a support, and also Sergeant Jordan, Chief, Madam Mayor, City Council members, especially our commissioners, have been so very supportive and wonderful. We have a lot to do this year. We have a lot to look forward to, and we are very excited about the work plan ahead. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for that presentation and update on the work plan. I will now open the floor to council discussion.
I defer to our liaisons first if they want to go first, Mayor.
Councilor Ye, please.
I don't have questions, but I did want to take a quick moment to thank Chair Folks. She has stepped up and been a very authentic, giving a lot of grace to others and being willing to ask questions. And it's been rough for all of us, losing our chair and a lot of changes on the commission, but she is sticking in it. She's sticking with it and being our rock and holding us all together. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you for dealing with all the changes and trying to navigate everything and just staying calm and working through it. And it's not always easy, and we appreciate what you're doing. We really do.
Thank you, Councilor Groves.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councilor Keating, as well. I want to echo the same thing. I appreciate you stepping up. You're being rather new yourself. You're stepping into things at a very interesting time in our history here. A lot of issues going on that I think it's important that we have this community member-driven group that helps have that community look at policy. My former past, that sometimes you get locked into your profession. I think it's always nice to have people that don't know the lingo and aren't familiar with the policies and procedures to be able to come in and ask questions and say when things make sense and when they don't. And that helps us develop clarity. So I look forward to the rest of the year. I really enjoyed our goal-setting session, and I know you stepped up at a really interesting period in our history. So thank you for doing that.
Councilor Keating.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Chair Amelia and Sergeant, Chief, for the work, and to all your commission members and to our council liaisons. And I also want to thank the previous chair for her volunteerism and for Jensina's work and dedication as well. I have a couple of questions about internal policies that you've referenced, or external policies, and then internal fixes or how the commission has looked internally to address maybe some of the concerns that came up from the previous chair's exit. I might want to start there even, and so not to put anyone in an uncomfortable place, but what have you learned from that moment in the commission's history, and how has that shaped your work moving forward?
Ask for clarification.
Yeah, I'm referencing Chair Jensina Hawkins' resignation, and there were significant allegations about other members of the board, another member of the board, either bullying or harassing or creating arguably an unsafe workplace. And so, not to get into potential legal matters, but has the commission addressed the matter, and is the commission taking any actionable steps to look inward and to apply some best practices? What has the commission, or what have you, as chair of the commission, learned from that experience?
Great question. So, personally, I learned that communication is key. First of all, communication is key. And Within our commission, we have a lot of different and strong, sometimes varying and differing opinions. One thing I learned is that giving the opportunity for individuals to provide, giving the opportunity to have conversations with individuals where there is cause for concern, having those honest conversations and letting it be known what's going on. I can personally say it seemed like those conversations didn't entirely happen, and not to put anyone in any position, but the individual that you may be referring to wasn't completely aware of what was happening, or maybe the harm that they were causing. And I did have a conversation with them, and they took that as a moment of learning and understanding that, oh gosh, okay, maybe we don't say or do these things. And so having those conversations as they come up, and within our commission as a whole. So if there are issues or if there are problems, we talk about that as a commission as a whole, if there are issues. Based on my conversation specifically, again, it was a moment of there needed to be more conversation, more communication. That person didn't know exactly what was going on, or not necessarily what that wasn't going on. They didn't know the harm that they were doing. And so I was able to provide kind of a brief layout of how that type of harm was being caused. I struggle with calling things out as they are because I hate confrontation. I'm terrified of it. So I'm working personally on trying to call out microaggressions and those types of things as they come up. And I don't always see them, but I'm trying to be more aware of them. So moving forward, it is something that I want to be aware of, and let it be known that if there is cause for concern currently, if there are any safety concerns, any concerns within commissioners individually or as a whole, that we have those hard conversations, that we talk about that as a commission, or come to me personally and we can talk about that and come up with a game plan, a safety plan, whatever that might be, and try to move forward as a commission. What I can say is I think that the differing opinions are really important to have in our commission. There was so much learned from the July 10th meeting, I will say that I learned. A lot's going on in our world, and people are scared, people are angry, and as they should be. So my goal is I really want to make it a safe space for everybody, and I also want to give everybody the opportunity to learn from their mistakes and learn how to communicate with one another and move forward collectively as a group.
A remarkable answer. Thank you, Chair. I appreciate your candor and your leadership. Chief, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, Councilor Keating, I would just add that from a process perspective, I think what we've identified through our experience in the Police Commission is a vulnerability amongst all of our boards and commissions. When we have conflict between board members, we don't have a really clean process to go through as to who should be leaning into that. How do we engage some kind of level of investigative look as to what happened and hold people accountable? Because all of us are held to our respectful workplace environment policies, whether you're a volunteer or a staff. We've got it dialed in when we think about staff and how we do this. It's been a little bit squishy when it comes to our volunteers, and so we've recognized that, especially when it's not stuff that's overt, that's happening in a meeting, but happening behind the scenes between email, text message, between potentially members of a commission that you don't necessarily know is happening until it gets to a really critical point. So I think what it has come to is, as we're as liaisons with all these commissions, we have to be acutely aware of what's going on, open those lines of communication, make sure that it's a safe place for people to report the type of behavior that they're uncomfortable with, and then we have to, as a city, figure out the mechanism by which we're going to go ahead and investigate those. Because in our case, after all, this is your police commission. These are your people that you appointed to the police commission, and ultimately you are the governing body that could remove somebody if that were the case. But we need to come to you with a robust piece of evidence to suggest that somebody should be removed. And in this particular case, we didn't have the mechanism to do that. So we're thinking about the process by which we go through this so that if you have to contemplate that, you can feel good about the information that you have.
Very helpful. Thank you, both. Thank you for sharing the breadth of work, immigration reform, safety cameras or license plate readers. I so look forward to a conversation forgive me if I'm mispronouncing their name. Chief, who's the officer? Is it Officer Kyle Williams, the drones as first responder specialist?
Sergeant Kyle Williams. Yes.
Sergeant Kyle Williams, my apologies. I think council could benefit greatly from a presentation as drones as first responders. My final question here is, recognizing that a couple of years ago there were a series of potential hate crimes, anti-Semitic vitriol in South Eugene, and most recently reported anti-immigrant, even pro-Nazi flyering. Has the commission reviewed these allegations, and or does the commission, or do you as an individual leader within the commission, and Sergeant and Chief, I'd love to hear your thoughts, do you find that there might be a pathway for a potential collaboration with another border commission, in this case maybe the Human Rights Commission, collaborating with the Police Commission to really kind of get to the meat and get to the heart of the matter?
Thank you, Councilor Keating, for that. I'll go ahead and just take this one, if that's okay, Amelia. There's always a cross-section with our Human Rights Commission when we think about Police Commission, because what the Human Rights Commission hears is the stories of people that have been victims of hate and bias. Now, the thing that I would say, though, when we think about building good police policy, in our state, we have crimes specifically that address this, bias in the first and second degree, and more recently, the display of a noose, which is also considered a hate crime. So much of what we hear about in our community that we need to pay attention to and respond to some degree is the hate and bias incidents, which don't rise to the level of crime, but certainly don't feel any less punitive to people. And so the one thing I would say is that Eugene has been known to be a leader in the state for sure, if not the region, for recording and capturing those hate and bias incidents, not just the crimes, but the hate and bias incidents. We often get a bad rap here in Eugene to the extent that we collect that data as we get called out for a per capita type of metric when it comes to that. But what I would say is that it's the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do is to memorialize and capture all of those hate and bias incidents, even if it doesn't rise to the level of a crime. But when it comes to the Police Commission and the work of the police department, part of what we do is trying to recognize, is it an incident or a crime? Certainly if it's a crime, there's a full investigation that happens. Even if it's an incident, we have liaisons that are working with these different groups that are being impacted so profoundly, and making sure that we're paying attention and letting them know we're paying attention to some of the behaviors, even though it's not actionable with respect to being able to make an arrest, but we're still paying attention and we're having liaison work with those particular groups or individuals. So even if it's just a smattering of flyers, some graffiti, which can be a crime depending on where the graffiti is. It's certainly criminal mischief, but if the graffiti is on somebody's property, then that becomes a bias crime in the second degree. We want to make sure we're connecting with them regardless of whether it's a crime or an incident, letting them know that we're paying attention. Our intelligence analysts are constantly scrubbing and scouring everything that we can to make sure that we have a clear view and a clear picture of the type of hate and bias initiatives that are happening in our community, so we can get ahead of that. So it's ongoing work, it's important work, and it's work that we can do with the Human Rights Commission for sure.
Councilor Kaczynski.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the presentation, and thank you to both you and the whole of the Police Commission for the work that you're doing in our community. I just had one quick question. I know you had emergent technologies on your agenda, the thingy that you were looking at. Was that more of a generic discussion about how to respond to new technologies coming in general? Or, because I noticed that there were several other more specific discussions around specific technologies.
I might pass this on to the chief. Oh my goodness, pardon me. So I wasn't here for that one, the emergent technology, but my understanding is that, as you can tell, there's already the drones as first responders. We have the ALPR stuff, or there's the ALPR policy. So that, I believe, is, I'll pass it on so I don't say
Sure.
anything I don't know. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. So the timing that came on was during a time shortly after we had revamped our online reporting tool to MyPD Connect from CopLogic, which expanded profoundly the accessibility for people to be able to report crime online. That particular police commission was super interested in technology in general, and so they just kind of grabbed an umbrella title of emerging technology so that they could have some visibility on that. We were quick to talk about how they wouldn't approve technology, but as the technology came on and that we would need to think about building policy for that policy would come to them in the cadence of the meetings. But at that point, we were also very, very clear that we wouldn't suspend the use of technology pending the approval of the policy. Otherwise, meeting once a month, we'd never be able to keep up with the types of technologies that we need to have to be efficient.
Okay, so that I'm understanding, that conversation was, we're putting out a new reporting system, that uses the internet, where you need some policies around, like, just generically, how do we respond when we're putting in place new policies new technologies, as opposed to anything about specific?
Well, this was, in fairness, this was a time where a work plan was built with an awful lot of focus on things that weren't necessarily in the purview of the police commission. They were just super interested in the technology, and so they put that on their work plan. And so as new technology is a part of what we do now, what's interesting is it's not all new technology, because we certainly don't have the time to be talking about every time we have a CAD or RMS change or Celebrite for our cell phone stuff, or the things that are happening at ECU or FEU, or, our forensic evidence unit is constantly changing technology. So they weren't interested in doing all of technology. They just wanted a placeholder on this so they could talk about the technology that they found interesting more than anything else. So what started that was when I talked to them about how the new online reporting tool that was going to replace the existing reporting tool, which we already had a policy for, was going to come online, and that kind of is what spurred their interest, and they just grabbed the heading emerging technology for future things.
And there's separate conversations about some of these other technologies and the policies surrounding them that are going on?
Separate conversations.
Thank you.
Councilor Clark.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Chair, for the report and all the great information. Appreciate all of your hard work. Sergeant, thank you, too, for all of the hard work that you put in to try and make sure that the Police Commission does its important work well. Chief, I think my question's for you, but it might be for the Chair. I don't know. Let's find out. Councilor Kaczynski kind of brushed up against my question. In the last few weeks, I've read a lot of emails about police work and different community members' thoughts about what's done and what's not done and what should be done and what shouldn't be done. And in a lot of that, mixed in all of that, were a lot of comments about people's expectations and their assumptions of the role of the police commission. What it should be, what it shouldn't be, what they thought the police commission does or doesn't do. To me, it was less than clear as an appropriate role of the police commission was not as crystal clear in the general public's mind, from what I read, as I would like. What would you suggest? Is that a role of council to better inform the general public of the appropriate role of the police commission and the inappropriate role of the police commission? How would you suggest? Any thoughts?
Certainly I'm not going to tell council how to do their work, but
Right.
but I would say that my understanding in the last 7.5 years that I've been here is that this body of individuals over the course of my tenure here acts as council's police policy advisory group or an advisory board. I've not been bashful about having issue with it being called a police commission, because in law enforcement, commissioners are actually chiefs of police in many jurisdictions. And I think by the mere name, sometimes people have a tendency to think that there's a higher level of authority than there is, but it's a police policy advisory board. They advise on good police policy. That's what I need this group to do through the lens and the people that they represent, is to help build good police policy. We determine the strategy and the tactics and the operational the approach to the way we do our job in this contemporary time, and I need the police commission to advise on good policy to help govern that work. And so, you know, I think it does get conflated a little bit with regards to what their role is, but this group we have now is really embracing this. And the last thing I would say is, as we embark on some tough discussions around operationally what we do and how we build policy, this group can approve a policy and not necessarily approve the strategy. I think those things can both exist, and I think, you know, through some of the ALPR conversations we're having, is just because we may have some police commissioners maybe not be all in on the ALPR technology doesn't mean that they're not all in on trying to at least build a good policy in the event that it's going to be a part of our operational strategy.
Let me just throw it out there and say that in the future, if council in our appointment process of police commissioners in the future can do any better job of helping to educate those who apply for the work, I would open that up to you and your staff to help us advise appropriately, so folks beginning that work know what their parameters are, and certainly maybe in that process the community can learn that more clearly as well. Thank you.
Council, I'm going to ask Councilor Zelenka to step forward into the first round, and then, given that we have a second agenda item, we're going to shorten the second round to just 1-minute check-ins for the two councilors in the queue, and I just have a quick comment at the end. So, Councilor Zelenka.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you for the work that you all do in the Police Commission. I was on the Police Commission for a while, so I understand the workload, and it's very important work. I had a question about the new work plan in item 9, which was auditor discipline outcomes. It's the only one that's not a policy. And so I'm wondering what that is about, because a lot of that is driven by charter and disciplinary outcomes are driven by state law. So I'm wondering what the discussion was around what you were going to discuss.
Counselor, I'll take that one just because I was there for that. That one specifically, one of the deficiencies that has been identified by the CRB is wanting to better understand the outcome of the discipline. They get to review, as you know, they get to review redacted investigations. They get to identify whether they feel like the investigation was done well, and they get to render a decision on how to adjudicate the particular things. The piece that they're left wanting is to know the discipline of that, and to better understand if the outcomes are in alignment with what is being allocated. That's difficult. I mean, there's a lot to that when you're talking about personnel files and being able to do that. I think what this is tended to memorialize is kind of an ongoing discussion between the Police Commission, the CRB, EPEA, which is our union, on how we might be able to do that if appropriate. So I think that was important to the Police Commission to have that on their work plan to continue those discussions, but I don't think there's a real clear path forward on how we're doing, other than to say that that we're being asked to evaluate how maybe that we can pull back the screen or pull back the curtain a little bit on the discipline that I administer.
Great, thank you for that. When I was on the Police Commission, we did a policy review of the virtual policing, and you brought on the new system. I think it's a great system. I applaud the use of technology in that regard, because it does make it much more accessible for people. But maybe you can explain a little bit about how it works for people listening and how they access it, because it's a very cool tool, because a cop can't respond to every phone call we get. So this helps quite a bit in being able to access or connect with police.
Yeah, not only can a cop not respond to every call we get, not everybody wants a cop to respond to them.
Sure.
And we recognize that, The nice thing about this platform, unlike the one that we had formerly, is there's some main differences. Number one, it's functional in many different languages. And so you can find your language on this, and it can switch to that language so that it doesn't preclude people from reporting lower level crimes that maybe don't need an immediate response, but they need like a case number for insurance or those types of things. The other thing is it's a place where you can upload your videos and your photographs to support the crime that's occurred. Many people have photographs or video of the crime occurring or the property that was stolen or whatever the situation is. And then the last piece of this, not the last, but an important piece of this is it also offers a virtual option so that you can meet with a community service officer virtually. And there has a drop-down menu with a calendar, and so if you want to actually have a conversation with somebody, we do it virtually, much like a telehealth visit would be for those of us that went through COVID. So it's a very robust way. It creates more access. I think it creates more equity amongst our community members to be able to report. There's analytics on the back end of it. It immediately feeds into our evidence cloud storage for those pieces of evidence. It gets sent upstairs in some cases to the detectives to follow up on, because your incident, as insignificant as it may seem at the time, might be the piece of information we need in a broader investigation. And so we're really encouraging people. Last time I checked, we're getting about 12 to 13,000 reports a year on this platform. And it's just another example of how we're trying to match the resource with the need and find an alternative way to respond to the community.
12, 13,000, that's a lot.
Councillor Groves.
Thank you, Mayor, and I'll try and be very brief on this. Councillor Clark brought up the point I was going to bring up, and Chief Skinner made the points I wanted to make in this. I think we've done a disservice to the Police Commission by calling it a commission. I think we've set the public on a direction where they are expecting something that this group cannot give because they don't have the authority. It's not designed like that. I agree it's a policy advisory group, and I think it has a very important role in helping our police department see through the community's eyes. But at the same time, when I talk to people, they're expecting Tom Selleck on Blue Bloods, and that's not what they're getting. And so, it's kind of almost an overpromise under delivery just by the name being a commission. Thank you.
Councillor Ye.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on something that Councillor Keating, I realized on the Police Commission members, Commissioner John Bradley, it says vice chair, but he's also our liaison from the Human Rights Commission. So we have a liaison from the HRC. It's just there wasn't enough space to put all of his titles on one line. So just...
Thank you. I added myself to the queue just because I wanted to take the opportunity to do two things. One, I wanted to thank our Police Commission chair, our previous chair, and all of our police commissioners, both seated and new, coming to the commission for their service over this first 10 months as your mayor. It's been a real pleasure to get to know the many different applicants who've applied to be considered for the Police Commission and to make recommendations to this council for Police Commission appointments. And I also want to appreciate the chief and our staff for the work with this policy advisory group. The Police Commission in the City of Eugene, the police auditor that this community has access to, the Civilian Review Board, these are all areas of work that many people who are newer to our community are not aware are critical components to the public safety work that we do in this community because they are different from how other places do this work. I think it is work that we can be really proud of because of the way that it continuously engages our community's values with the work that we're doing through community policing. And I just want to appreciate all of the efforts involved, and I will continue my efforts to ensure that our commissioner applicants understand the responsibilities that are being requested of them as they come forward for service with this body. And so with that, I will ask if our council president would please put a motion forward.
Move to approve the Police Commission FY 2026 and FY 2027 work plan as presented in Attachment A.
Second.
Any further discussion from council? Seeing none, I'll now take a vote for this motion. All in favor? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, with 0 opposed, and the motion passes with a vote of 7-0. Thank you all very much. And this concludes our first agenda item. I'll now turn to our Assistant City Manager for the second agenda item, our next agenda item for this work session, which is an update on City Council operating agreements.
Thank you, Mayor. And as our city recorder gets set up, I'll just give you a couple framing comments. So, as you know, periodically we bring back council's operating agreements for review and discussion. Staff have been tracking administrative updates for council to consider, as well as a few proposed topics raised by councilors in meetings. Amendments to the operating agreements must be adopted by resolution, and that's typically placed on a consent calendar at a later date. We'll be here to kick off the conversation in just a minute.
Mike 13 on October 13th.
Just a second. It's got to be good luck, right?
Good luck, Cherish. Thank you, Matt. My name is Katie Lasala. I'm your city recorder. And today I will be presenting on possible updates to council's operating agreements. The last time council updated their operating agreements was in October of 2023. And since that time, staff have been tracking potential administrative updates related to new legal requirements, changes in processes, errors, and on some instances, clarifications that we believe would be helpful for staff. I will note that the administrative updates are in attachment or outlined in attachment B of your AIS, and your first motion in your packet would move forward the administrative updates. And with that, I will go through each of these potential changes and the correlating section that they are under. So section 1.04, notice of meetings, special meetings, emergency meetings. Current council operating agreements has this as 24 hours notice given before regular meetings. But public meetings law did change to require 48 hours notice of regular meetings. I will say that since I started in this role 3.5 years ago, we've been consistently achieving more than 72 hours notice. So it's not necessarily a change in our process, but in alignment with the new legal requirements. Section 1.5, public forum. Council made a change at the end of 2023, an informal change to rename that public comment. This would be your opportunity to make that change formal. Section 9.2 or 9.02, state and federal lobbying, reference to a repealed resolution carried over in the last update, and so staff would like the opportunity to correct that error. Section 10.03, local expenses. Staff are recommending an update to include some modern language such as phone and internet charges to clarify local expenses that are reasonable reimbursement requests within the parameters set by resolution and operating agreements. And the resolution is your attachment C in your packet. Section 10.05, petty cash. Due to process changes, staff are suggesting removal of this section and a renumbering of all sections after. And the last section, section 12, meeting and work session seating assignments. Staff are recommending a clarifying a little bit of a language update, adding some language to clarify the seating changes between sessions, as well as an update to the graphic. We believe this will help staff implement the intent behind the language that council has already approved. So those administrative updates, motion 1 moves those forward. For additional topics, that would be motion 2 in your packet. It's more of a choose your own adventure. Since the last time we updated the operating agreements, which is almost 2 years ago, staff have been tracking topics that have been raised during meetings by counselors and indicated that they would like to discuss it the next time that their operating agreements come for discussion. So these are more organized by topic. So prioritizing boards, commissions, and neighborhood speakers during public comment. This current practice began under Mayor Piercy. Official representatives for boards, commissions, and neighborhood groups are prioritized during public comment over or ahead of the other randomized speakers. And staff are looking for some direction from council as to whether they would like this process to continue and whether it should be formalized in your operating agreements. Second item, in-person public comment. This was a piloted change that began at the end of 2023. Currently, public speakers must be in person. Virtual public comment, it can be sent via email. Staff are looking for some direction from council as to whether this piloted change should be formalized or whether that process should be discontinued. Additionally, related to public comment, it was piloted at around the same time as your last agenda item after consent calendar 2 and action items. And that relates to the last piece that we have up here. So I'll talk about them sort of in tandem. The placement of consent calendar 2 on your agenda was a piloted change. Right now, it is at the end of the agenda, or the public comment is at the end of the agenda, but your operating agreements have consent calendar 2 agendized after public comment. And this has been raised a couple of times in council as needing further discussion. Lastly, it's been 2 years. There's probably other topics related to your operating agreements that you've been thinking about, and so this would be the opportunity to raise those topics for discussion with the rest of council. We'll stop there and see what questions I can answer.
Thank you, staff. And just to reiterate, we have a fairly straightforward first motion requested related to the administrative updates. And also 3 additional topics, including one that is open-ended, to come forward potentially as additional motions. If council would be willing to indicate their leanings as we cycle through this first round, that will give us a good chance to see where we can land by the end of the work session today. So with that, Councillor Clark, and then Councillor Groves, and then Councillor Keating.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to reiterate the reasoning that I think predominantly put up such a fuss about the consent calendar 2 items. As I see Lindsay's not here, specifically in the River Road related council wards, we end up with more of the potential annexations than any other place. And sometimes there are folks who want to have something to say about an annexation that we're considering on the consent calendar. And for me, it's always been important to make sure that any annexation that we're going to vote on in the consent calendar comes after the public forum, so that if somebody wants to object to it for whatever reason, we at least give them the chance to be heard before we're voting on whether or not we're annexing something that's important to them for whatever reason. So I hope we will continue to allow that opportunity in however we vote. Thank you.
Councillor Groves.
Thank you, Mayor. As far as the first question, I have absolutely no issue with the administrative changes. They all make sense to me. As far as other things to look at, I've actually got 2 things. One, I really don't have formulated into what we should do about it. One, I do have a motion I would like to make after everybody's had a chance to weigh in. But the first issue I had is, and I've heard this from people that have actually come to testify before, where they actually don't get in to testify, or they're so late in the process that they have to leave for personal commitments, kids or whatever at home. And that is, it seems like we hear from a lot of the same people week after week saying virtually the same thing. And I'm wondering, is there a way that we could equitably spread that wealth out a little bit and prioritize people who haven't spoken in, let's say, a given month? So we hear what they have to say as well. I think all voices are important, but I don't have an idea of exactly how to formulate that would be, again, a fair and equitable piece. So that's one issue. The second issue is, and as I mentioned, I have a motion, but I want to hold off till everybody has a chance to speak about this, and that is a process question of when to make a motion, because once a motion is made, it shuts off the discussion. And if counselors haven't had a chance to speak, we aren't hearing what they have to say. And I think one of the strengths we have as a council are our differences. And I know on a number of occasions I've been swayed by what I've heard other counselors say that have moved me off a point and at least started looking at it differently. And if we should be looking for ways to open opportunities for us to engage and speak with one another and express our opinions. And if once a motion is made, then we can only speak to that motion and not the issue. I think that's doing a disservice to our process. I think it's doing a disservice to the public. Remember, each one of us has a constituency base of roughly 22,000 people. And we are their spokesperson, we are their representative, their elected representative. And if we are silenced, I don't think it gives us the adequate tools and ability to represent those people. So I do have a motion to make later that hopefully gets at that. And, you know, I'm willing to entertain, is there a better way to get there? So thank you.
Councillor Keating.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillor, I'll wait to the motion to speak to the to my opinion, at least, as to whether it's a process piece or a custom and practice piece. But I appreciate you bringing it up and floating it. It's premature for me to comment on it at this juncture. But I do want to say that I've little to no heartburn about what Councillor Clark is suggesting. I have a question for our legal team. In that there have been at least 2 meetings in my 5 years on council that we've had to gavel out early or temporarily because of unruly behavior. If we have agenda items and have to gavel out, how much does that hamstring us? Or are those agenda items able to be addressed at our next regularly scheduled work session? Like, would there be a way to put these agenda items on not, or recognizing that they might not be addressed that night because of whatever emerging or urgent or emergency that may arise?
Yeah, the question is less legal and more, you know, a function of our ability to manage business. Yeah, it's on. There's not a legal problem with taking something that was scheduled for this meeting. We didn't have time putting it on another agenda. So long as we meet notice requirements, that's generally not a problem. But most definitely the reason that this body decided to move public forum to the end is to prevent exactly what you're talking about. It's honestly more of a question probably for those who manage the agenda to address.
Counselor, I don't know how I would frame this, but you could, in your operating agreements, have something, because there's part of your operating agreements is the order in which business is attended to in meetings. So this agenda items comes first, second, third, fourth. You could potentially have something, previous agenda items that weren't addressed would go at the top of the meeting. There are some time-sensitive items that might prove to be problematic. It doesn't happen very often, but occasionally we'll have something on consent that is time-sensitive, and so that's something to consider. I couldn't give you a number of how often that happens, but it does happen.
Okay, thank you. Something to ponder is this involves for sure. To answer your question, Katie, I don't see any red flags in the suggested changes, so I hope that's helpful. I just might want a little clarification on the piece about federal or state lobbying. There are oftentimes when I'm lobbying and will identify myself in the role or roles that I serve and make it clear that I'm either speaking on behalf of my boss or I'm speaking as an individual. And so I just am seeking some clarification because I can't pull up the attached AIS, apologies, around that piece. I don't suspect there'll be a bump in the road, but just seeking some clarification there.
So the state and federal lobbying piece is specifically to a resolution that was updated, and we missed updating the number last time. So it was already something that council approved the changes to, and when we made the updates, we made the resolution number update in 2 or 3 places and forgot this place. And so it's very surgical, and you've already approved the resolution for the changes that were put forward. It's just making sure that your operating agreements are reflective of the actual number that is the resolution that's in effect.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful. And then on the other piece, page 7, bullet point number 3, I've brought up before, you and I've talked about it. I think we're at a point in history where, especially when we have council changeover every 2 to 4 years, wherein we have work sessions live here Monday night, and then a virtual work session on Wednesday. While that might be convenient, certainly for someone during the legislative session who's working 100 miles north, or 55, 60 miles north of here, I think that council should retain the ability to participate remotely, but strongly encourage in-person meetings anytime we can, both for the public benefit and for our ability to gel as a unit. Is there any opportunity to address that longing this evening?
Yeah, Counselor, I'm actually going to tap Assistant City Manager for that because there are some budget considerations related to bringing council back in person on Wednesdays.
Yeah, thank you, Katie. Councilor Keating, I think that would be what we would hope for as part of the consideration. We did make that change as part of a budget reduction strategy, so if council were to consider coming back to in-person Wednesday meetings, we'd like to do some work to be able to have that information for you when you make the decision of what it would cost to bring that back.
All right, thank you. I get we're not going to be covering that ground tonight, but I remain an enthusiastic advocate for this body gathering in person as much as possible. Thank you.
Councilor Kaczynski.
Thank you, and thank you to staff. So just to kind of sum up with sort of where I am with various things, the administrative items I am good with. I share, I think, some of Randy's concerns surrounding folks who are coming to public comment. It's their first time, they've come out to do this and then not getting to be heard because there are a lot of people who are here every time. I think, there may be a way to do that. I think the biggest challenge is going to be sort of the logistics of figuring out who's here and who's not, and if there's maybe some sort of honor system or something where people can kind of say, I'm here regularly. I do think part of that is looking at the boards and commissions and maybe not continuing that practice to have them come first, because we have had a lot of sort of repeat every time comments coming through that way. And then I'm fine with continuing public comments to be in person, and receiving virtual comments via email. And then also I would say regarding consent calendar 2, are there items on consent calendar 2 that we can only vote on at meetings and could not vote on at a Wednesday work session if they were time sensitive and got pulled off?
I don't have an answer to that question, Counselor, right now, but I think we have passed resolutions and ordinances in work session before. It is not as common. I've never seen it done for an annexation. So I don't know if there's a legal reason why it couldn't be done. And so I would have to get back to you on that.
Is the question whether or not you could take action on, pass a resolution or an ordinance at a work session? Is that generally?
Yes.
Yes, you can. It's just not, your practices have prohibited it for a while, but there's no legal problem with you doing so.
Yeah, because I am generally in support of consent calendar 2 being like on the list as the last thing. And I feel like Councilor Keating brought up a good point of what happens if the meeting has to end early for whatever reason. And so wanting to see if in the occasion that happened, we would have an option other than potentially waiting 2 weeks to address what was on consent calendar 2.
So the only other thing I'll mention, Counselor, is that you would have to consider that 48-hour notice for a regular meeting and update. If you wanted to put it on the work session immediately following, we may not be able to meet that 48 hours because it would require an amended Wednesday packet, an amended notice that goes out.
We can look into that more carefully. I mean, in land use procedures, for example, when these things happen, we appear, if folks show up for that item because they had notice, then they will also hear that it would be addressed at the next meeting. And sometimes that can suffice.
Okay.
So it just something we can look into.
Oh, I had another thing. So the other thing I wanted to bring up as an item for discussion was Section 5 of our operating agreements. This is the one that says counselors who are absent can request that the items or votes be postponed, and that that would be by sort of default granted. I'm a little concerned about that one because I know we've had a couple of times this year where we've had votes or agenda items that were pretty time sensitive postponed because counselors were traveling. And I think it creates a situation where we have I'll probably want a second round, but I'm just thinking right now that Councilor Leach is not here. She may not know about the motions that might come out, and there's not really a process for her to weigh in on that. So I'll come back for second round.
Councilor Zelenka.
Yeah, I agree with what Mike said about consent agenda. I mean, the reason we put that there was because it was odd before we didn't have this in place that we would we would approve the annexation during the consent, then people would talk about it, and then what? And so now it's, if the annexation is on there, we just don't put it on consent when we put it on consent to after they have the opportunity to talk, because there's no other opportunity for them to address the issue. So I think that should be memorialized. Boards and commissioners and neighborhood chairs, the reason we put that in there was because those folks contribute a heck of a lot of time and effort to the city already, and we want to make it as efficient as possible for them to be able to officially come to us in their capacity as a chair to then talk to us. And having to potentially wait until 9:30, 10 o'clock didn't seem very fair to someone who has something to say about what the commission was doing or the board was doing. So that's why we put them in the front, and I think that's still a good policy, and I would like to see that more. In-person public comment. I don't have a problem with people being virtual on doing public comment. I think it expands the pool of being able to. This is for the public comment period, right? I don't think that necessarily needs to all be in person. Some people have childcare issues or health care issues, or they're a care provider and they can't get away from their house. So providing they'll be able to do that, I think is I don't have any problem with any of the 6 administrative ones. I didn't even know we had a petty cash. Wish I'd known that. So I don't have any problem with any of the
Counselor Ye.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Mayor. So yeah, I also don't have any problem with administrative changes. They all seem fine to me. Also, consent calendar too. I like that idea. Mike's right. It didn't make sense before. It was weird. So yeah, if we can figure that out, I would love to be able to keep it at the end. But I mean, I think, Matt brings up a good point that we need to have a game plan for if something happens, what are we going to do? Let's see, virtual comments. I don't have a problem with virtual comments. I actually think that's one of the great things of recent technology is that folks who can't make it all the way downtown, going across the river is hard. And, if they can just call in, why not? If we can make it work, I would love to be able to do that again. So then the issue of folks not being able to speak is as old as I have been on here. I'm sure you all were talking about it before that. The randomized speakers, cutting it off at a certain time, that was pretty early on, and I was not a big fan, kind of get it now, but that was our attempt to try to, solve that problem. But, I know we got an email with someone suggested, you could, be on the honor system and you could report, I've been here before, and that somehow you would get at the bottom of the random. And I applaud that as trying to think outside the box and how we might approach it. I feel like that might be hard for staff to accomplish. And also on the honor system, there's going to be disagreements. So I don't know how to solve this problem either. I think the only really way to solve it is to not have a time limit and just let everyone talk. Otherwise, there's going to be a problem. So if we're committed to the time limit, I don't know that anything that we do will solve this problem. It'll just create it in a slightly different way. But if someone has an idea, I hope they will bring it forward. Oh, Mike's going to solve it for us. So, so I'm willing to listen, I guess. I don't have a way to solve it. As far as this motion we got from Randy, I understand where you're getting at and the problem you're trying to solve. My assumption is that as a council, we could vote to table a motion against the motion maker's will if we wanted to. Is that correct? Like, as a solution to this problem?
But yes, but then you can't talk about it.
We couldn't talk about the motion, but we could go back to talking about the original. True. The original. So that could have solved the problem if we'd have thought of that day. So I feel like there's a workaround where we don't need this because had an opportunity to fully discuss. Well, I'm not sure what that means. Does that mean one round? I think it starts to get squishy, and this could be kind of weaponized a little bit. But I understand where you're trying to get at, and I think the solution is, well, we should just table the motion and go back to what we need to do. But I'm willing to hear what other folks have said. And I think that's, I'm over.
Yes, then you were.
Mayor, can I offer a quick?
Yes,
just because I want to make sure I'm being clear. All of these on the screen right now are piloted changes, so your operating agreements don't reflect this. If you want it to, that would require a motion to update your operating agreements. If you would just like to stop piloting the change and you want it to go back to the original, what your operating agreements actually say. So consent calendar to agendize after public comment, you don't actually have to make a motion to make that change. You just have to tell us that you would like that piloted change to stop. So I just wanted to make that clear.
We have Councillor Clark and Councillor Kaczynski with a quick round, but a clarifying question from Councillor Keating.
Yeah, thank you for that. Just a quick clarifying then. On Section 105, the piloted change, I'm very comfortable with it continuing to prioritize in-person public comment while allowing for any sort of virtual hybrid participation if there is time. So would I want to not take any action, or would I want to support?
You also have the option to give staff direction to pilot a new change. So it wouldn't update your operating agreements, but you could make a motion to give us direction to do something, and as a piloted change, which is how some of these came about.
I'm still seeking some guidance from my colleagues then,
Okay.
because it's just, I don't have a motion prepared for this. And I don't know if I just don't do anything, if it continues to be, if the custom and practice continues to be what we've been doing.
So I think at this point, I would assume if no action were taken on these things, that you would want to continue that piloted change. But if that's not the case, I'm going to need some direction from council.
Okay, thanks.
Just to clarify, my assumption, and it may not be correct, is that these things were instituted not as an amendment to your agreements, because they're not in here, but they were through some vote to change the way things are operating. If it was a council vote that made this pilot action take place, it's a council vote that would be required for the practice to change. So I move we stop doing that. All in favor, say aye. I don't know if each one of those was instituted through a vote, but you.
I don't know what requires
I would, so based on the guidance from city attorney, if you wanted these things to stop, I would need a motion to end the piloted change. If you want to actually formalize these items in your operating agreements, I would need a motion to update the operating agreements.
I think we will need to go through each one for that reason. Thank you for that clarification, staff. Some of the discussion had been in the opposite of what, for example, the in-person public comment discussion is, which might be the source of our confusion. So we will go through these, I think, each one at a time. But first, 1 minute for Councilor Clark and Councilor Kaczynski for a second round.
Thank you. I don't know whether or not a pilot was ever decided or not. I remember us making the consent calendar decision for a valid reason and voting on it, but then we stopped doing it. And I have no idea why, whether that was a pilot or somebody just decided that. I don't know. But I do think I have an idea for what we've talked around public forum, and it's this. It's whether or not staff can do it. I know it'll be a pain in the backside, but you have a formalized list right before anybody speaks a public forum of what the order is, right? And you'll have it 2 weeks later. And so the question is, did somebody speak last time or did they not speak last time 2 weeks ago? And if they did, they go in this group. And if they didn't, they go in group number 1, right? If they did speak, they go in group 2. And then you randomize those two lists with list number 1 is first and list number 2 is second. So that the folks who have spoken repeatedly are getting randomized, but they're in the second group. So those who didn't get to speak 2 weeks ago have a higher percentage of chance to speak to us than those who've spoken to us last week.
Councilor.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
I said 10 times a year, I think, 4 years ago.
We're long past.
So I don't know if that's possible, but that would be my motion when the moment gets here for us to deal with public forum, so.
Do you want me to respond to that, Mayor?
Yes, please, if there's a simple response also.
That is possible. I would suggest, if council chooses to go down that path, adjusting the sign-up time slightly to give staff time ahead of the meeting beginning, because staff are processing that list during the meeting right now. And so if you adjusted the cutoff time for sign-ups to either at meeting or right before meeting, then staff would have the ability to process that a little bit easier. But it will require more staff time to do what you're suggesting. I can't tell you how long it's going to take because we haven't tested that right now. So it's also an option. If you're not ready to formalize that decision, you could give us direction to pilot that and then tell you what that looks like.
Councilor Kaczynski?
Yes, before I get into my 1 minute, I'm seeing the clock and the fact that we just set up for another meeting and there are apparently like 15 things people want to vote on. Is there an opportunity to come back to this work session at a later date?
So
I'm looking at people mid schedules.
It would be wonderful if council is comfortable with moving the first motion forward to get those changes. Separately, I don't know what the options are for the tentative agenda availability, but we could we could essentially come back and talk about the harder topics.
Yeah, Council, I'll just echo what Katie said. If we can get a vote on the first item, that'd be wonderful, and then we can solve for bringing
Administrative stuff?
on the administrative stuff, and we can solve for bringing back another work session.
Well, not to, and Councilor Kaczynski, please continue.
And then I'll just say that to finish the thought that I had, if we're going to request for delays of motions or discussions, I would prefer that instead of that happening over text before the meeting, that it happen at the table with a vote. So I believe you could request a colleague or the mayor bring that forward.
Can't text.
Thank you, Councilor. As evidenced, I think we have more to discuss, and I want to appreciate the fact that other councilors also raised a few other items that I think need a little bit of clarifying discussion before the body might be prepared to swiftly vote. So with that, and knowing that we have broad agreement on the administrative items before us, I will turn to the council president to put that first motion forward.
Move to direct the city manager to place on an upcoming consent calendar agenda a resolution adopting the proposed changes to the city council operating agreements as outlined in attachment B.
Second.
Further discussion on the item?
Mayor,
Councilor Keating?
I have an amendment. I believe that we should add the words administrative updates in that there are other items that we're talking about bringing back, but I want to make really clear that we're affirming the 6 administrative updates that were presented to us.
Still coming back to us later.
Those, Councilor,
That's not what the motion says, though.
Councilor, none of the other topics are outlined in attachment B. Only the administrative updates are outlined in attachment B.
But I'm looking at this, though.
Thank you,
So
Councilor.
I would. Oh, okay. I take that back. Thank you.
Any further discussion from council? Seeing none, we'll now ask for a vote on this motion. All in favor, as indicated. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, with 0 opposed, and the motion passes with a vote of 7-0. We will return to, yes, City Attorney?
That the vote that you just made, the resolution will not be brought back until a further work session occurs, and there will be potentially additional changes to those administrative.
Thank you. Thank you for that clarification, City Attorney. With that, this concludes our agenda for today, and so thank you, Council, thank you, staff, and I now close the October 13th, 2025 City Council work session. We are adjourned.